Hello, everybody! Today we're going to be talking about interacting with police in Nicaragua. I'm going to try to answer this question, but it's important to keep in mind that I'm not a person who would see the worst side of the police. One, I'm a foreigner. Two, I'm white. Essentially, if you stay out of a car, you don't even have to stay out. You just have to not drive a car. If you're driving a car, you're going at some point to have to give a police officer like 500 pesos, so like $15, 500 corleva. If you're not driving a car, you're basically never going to have to deal with that. If you're a foreigner, you're going to be treated better than a local will by police. It's kind of like foreigners have this bubble of accountability. We have this, like, people treat us, or local Nicaraguans, police as well, treat me differently than they treat their locals. And usually they treat me, the foreigner, better than they would treat a local. That's not always true, because some people don't like foreigners, but most of the time, as a foreigner, you will be treated better than a local by a police officer. Especially if, like, you see a police officer or whatever, and you initiate, like, just smiling at them or saying hello. If they recognize you and you've done that a couple times, you can, like, they're gonna leave you alone, basically. If you're darker skinned, there is racism here. Like, I'm a white person talking about interacting with police. Like, I have more luxuries with police. Even in a country that isn't white, there's still that bullshit about, like, oh, if your skin is lighter, you're a better person. Like, that exists here too. Like, that racism is here in Nicaragua as well. I'm not saying at all that Nicaragua is a racist place, but you definitely do find these racisms. And there's also, like, class here, right? And one of the reasons you're treated better as a foreigner or somebody from or with lighter skin tone is that you're assumed to be of a higher class because of that. And so it's true that sometimes you get treated better simply because somebody wants money, but it's more complicated than that. It's quite likely that if you interact with a police officer, you will be treated better than a local, even if they're trying to get money out of you, if that makes sense. Normally, the police are, like, from the country, and they're younger people. Usually, like, they start and they're, like, 18-year-old men, or boys, I guess. It's very different in that way. Like, the kinds of people who are police here, there are so many police in the city because strength is in numbers. And, like, if you see somebody get arrested here, they get mobbed like a swarm of bees. You'll see, like, 2 or 3 trucks come out, and, like, 20 or 30 police officers will arrest a person. They don't really take chances with having, like, a small group. They get a big-ass group of people. And labor is cheaper here. So that's how they deal with things, basically, is by trying to outnumber. Police usually drive around in pickup trucks. So the vehicles look different. They still look like police vehicles, like they're painted, but they're all Hiluxes. Like, you see Hiluxes all over the place here in Nicaragua. They're absolutely everywhere because they're reliable. They can drive over dirt roads. It's not the end of the world if they get wet, all of that kind of thing, right? So you're going to see more police. And depending on where you are, like, I live in Managua and I live in Bologna, which is the neighborhood that the president lives in. So there's a big perimeter ever since April of 2018. And the police there are, like, more militant police. They're more similar to the kind of US style of police, but they look a lot more intimidating because they have assault rifles, they're in all black, usually they have riot gear. Seeing police here in riot gear just means you're passing a rotunda or a roundabout. Here, a standard police officer, like somebody who is wearing all blue, they'll have, like, a pistol with them and a shotgun. That's standard. Like, even, like, rural police basically will always have a shotgun. The shotgun's, like, the bare minimum. And then when you're in, like, the city, then you find the more militant police, and they're the ones who have riot gear and assault rifles and that kind of thing. But actually interacting with the police, being positive and smiley goes a long way. Police here are at first mistrusting of foreigners. So if you are smiling and being respectful, that's more important than basically anything else. And if you don't use a car, you'll basically never have an unpleasant interaction. If you're driving, if you're a foreigner in the driver's seat of a vehicle here, then it's quite likely that you'll be in a situation where you get pulled over and the police officer will say something that you were doing wrong and they're going to take your license unless you give them 500 cord or 500 pesos. It's like $15 basically. That's like the most common bribe, and it's almost always related to being in a vehicle. If you're not in a vehicle, you shouldn't have to bribe anybody. It's not like I've lived here for 4 years, and in the beginning of that, I was around a bunch of people in like the San Juan del Sur party scene and stuff, and I've never had to bribe anybody. I've never gotten in trouble. If you keep to yourself, people will tolerate you. It's when you don't keep to yourself or you start talking about things you shouldn't, that's when you can get in trouble here, okay? It's very ironic because in reality, as far as freedom for me to live my life goes, living in Managua is more free than in the United States. I have way less bureaucracy to deal with. There's like, if I get sick, even though I'm a foreigner, I can go to the hospital and they'll treat me. Like, you're treated like you're a regular person. What's even fucked up is if you're foreign and they can hear or see that you're foreign, keep in mind it's very easy to hear a foreigner, right? They'll treat you better than they will treat locals. In general, foreigners get treated better by police than locals. It's like, you can kind of imagine that there's this bubble around you, this bubble of almost accountability. It's almost like we're video cameras and we're recording people just by being a foreigner and being here. And police treat locals better when I'm next to a local than when I'm not around. Like, I know from my friends that they've been in situations where police have like beat them up and they weren't really doing anything. If you fight back at all, you get fucked. Like, totally fucked. So I'm not trying to say that the police here don't do that kind of stuff or that there's no corruption. It's important for you to understand that as a foreigner, even as a dark-skinned foreigner, you will be treated better than locals. The moment they know you're foreign, then they'll treat you better, basically. They might try and get some money out of you. That definitely happens. I haven't been everywhere, so take this with a grain of salt, all right? If you guys have any other questions about Nicaragua, let me know. Also, feel free to check out my tutorials. This YouTube channel is centered around teaching people things that are specific. So if you want to learn about something, then tell me about it, okay? Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.